welcome everybody. So today I am once again joined by my good friend Toad Brews. Oh, sorry about the 10-hour
It's
shift.
me.
It's Toad.
It's me, Toad Brews.
As once again we go over Value Vintage, which is a Magic format slash way of play where it's vintage, but all the deck and sideboard has to be less than $30, and it's considered a Brewers Paradise, and from what we've seen, it's been close to it. And it leads to some really interesting stuff. So the past two times we've gone over a original brew, or mostly original brew, and then we went over our take at Dredge. So tonight we're going to go over some of Toad's brews and learn them, study them, see what they're going, and test some hands and sort of figure out how they work. And I'm so sorry about your 10-hour shift, Light, and I'll be doing some 12, 11-hour shifts multiple days in a row in a few weeks. My summer schedule's going to be whack. So, tell me about this deck that you have now, Toad. Tell me about Hybrid Theory.
Okay, so what we're looking at here is effectively a combo deck. But it's a little bit weird about what the combo is. I would say it's a combo deck in the same way that Rhinos is a combo deck.
Okay.
Where your combo might not win the game on the spot, but it puts you in a very advantageous position.
Got it.
So this deck is really going to split the game up into the early game, which is turn 1 and 2, and then the mid game, which is turn 3, maybe 4, and then the late game is any turn after that.
Okay.
And you are planning to either win the game or knock your opponent out of the game in the early game.
Got it.
So you're looking for, ideally, a turn 1, maybe 2, possibly 3 win is your best case scenario. And then you do have some potential to go for a win after that. But if the game goes much past turn 4 or 5, you're probably in a bad spot.
Got it.
So your goal here is turn 1, you're going to play a mana accelerant, which could be either Blood Pet or Dark Ritual.
Okay.
And then you're going to cast either Buried Alive, Noxious Revival, or Swamp Cycle Troll and reanimate it with Death.
You mean Noxious Vapors, not Noxious Revival?
Noxious Vapors, yeah.
Okay.
And I have played this deck at a small tournament, and I went 2-1. So I think the deck has some potential, but it does need some more tuning. Basically, with Noxious Vapors, you get to pick one card of each color and keep it. So obviously, you're going to have a black card because it's a mono black deck.
Yeah.
But you also have all of these hybrid color cards. So you can potentially keep a blue card, a red card, a white card, a green card, and all of your lands, which means after Noxious Vapors, you can easily keep 4 or 5 cards, while your opponent might have to go down to 1 or 2, depending on how many lands they have in hand.
Okay. That's pretty clever.
And then you can also do a turn 1 Dark Ritual for Buried Alive to put 3 demigods in the graveyard. And then turn 2, you can cycle a Street Wraith and play your second land, and that lets you use Songs of the Damned to cast the last demigod from your hand, which gives you 20 haste flying power.
Holy shit.
So turn 2 or 3, you can kill with a decent hand.
Okay.
So then we have the Discovery Dispersal. So if your opening hand isn't perfect, you can sculpt it a little bit. We can't cast Dispersal in this deck. We don't have an actual blue source. So we're just looking for Discovery, but this is a blue card for Noxious Vapors. And then Life and Death is a green and black card, so we can keep it as our green card, but we're only using the black half. And we can reanimate Archfiend of Ifnir or Troll of Khazad-dûm, which cycle to put themselves in the graveyard. It's possible that you would want to reanimate a Street Wraith, but I've not had that actually come up.
Got it.
And then Push Pull is a 2-mana removal spell, so it's like a clunky removal spell that we can keep as either a white card or a red card for Noxious Vapors. And then we can actually cast Pull as we move into the mid-game or later game with one of our instants that generates mana. And then we can bring back like a Street Wraith and a Troll of Khazad-dûm and just get in for 9 damage. Which, if they have a swamp and 2 creatures or less, they're not going to be able to block any of that.
Yeah.
Against decks where they have stuff like Leyline of the Void or Soul Guide Lantern, I have found that just ritualing out like a turn 2 or 3 Demigod or Archfiend is still a very good clock. Like if you get a turn 2 Demigod, you're killing on turn 5.
Yeah.
So some decks in the format, like High Tide, turn 5 is just going to be too slow. But some of the other decks, like Green-White Initiative, they can get onto the board very quickly, but they do take a couple turns to kill you. So even through something like a Leyline or a Lantern or a Rest in Peace, we can still put power on the board.
Yeah.
So we've got the Blood Pets, so a lot of the lines will be turn 1 Blood Pet, turn 2 Noxious or Buried Alive, turn 3 Try for the Kill.
Okay.
We've got 1 Haunted Dead. So if you end up with multiple demigods in your hand, then you can't do the Buried Alive into 20 power, but you can Buried Alive for 2 demigods and a Haunted Dead, and then discard 1 or 2 demigods. So that's kind of just a little bit of insurance so that if you get your demigod stuck in your hand, you have a way to discard them besides just Noxious Vapors.
Yeah.
If you reanimate the Archfiend, then you can use Noxious Vapors as a board wipe.
Yeah, that's pretty clever.
So you can have an Archfiend out, and then if your opponent does get out a decent board to threaten you, you Noxious Vapors, and you can... all of the cards in here you can pick as black, I think. I'm not 100% on how Noxious Vapors works, but let me look at this Noxious Vapors, make sure I'm not saying something wrong. Alright, so you do have to pick a card of each color, but like if you have a push-pull and a demigod, then you can pick one is black and one is red, and then you'll discard all of your other black cards.
Got it.
So if you have like an extra Blood Pet and an extra Buried Alive, then you'll discard 2, and that'll put 2 -1/-1 counters on your opponent's board.
So it's kind of like a weird toolbox deck in a sense, too.
You kind of are doing toolbox stuff, but the core of the deck is all 4 of.
Yeah.
So like your instant speed rituals, your Buried Alive, your demigod, your Blood Pets are all 4 ofs. And then your kind of like incidental cycling cards are all 4 ofs, so your Street Wraiths and your Trolls. And then your utility cards, so like your removal spell and your cantrips are just 2 ofs. And then you've got your Archfiend, because those are a backup plan. Your main plan is demigods, but then you have the Archfiends. And it just all fits into $30.
Interesting.
Your mana base is real simple. It's just swamps. I've tried a Witch's Cottage and I've tried Peat Bog, and you don't want them. You just want swamps. You want to play untapped lands every turn for the first 2 or 3 turns, and you don't want to worry about counters or coming in tapped or anything like that. You just want to drop swamps. Just like High Tide runs basic islands because they want untapped mana sources. that don't have to worry about anything. You just play basics, they're free, and they come down untapped.
Okay. So tell me about the sideboard.
So if we go into the sideboard, let's go over the really obvious stuff first. So we've got 3 duress. So if we're going against another combo deck or a control deck that's going to counter our buried alives, then we can bring in some duresses, take out probably the push pulls against combo if they're not on creatures. We can take out the discovery dispersals because those are kind of just like a little bit of smoothing. We don't actually need them.
Okay.
If they're bringing in Rest in Peace and Leyline of the Void, we've got Feed the Swarms, which can come in for push pull because we're just swapping removal for removal. We can take out 1 copy of Life Death or 1 copy of Discovery and just kind of, again, keep the numbers smooth. You don't want to over sideboard with this deck. Like, push pull and Discovery Dispersal are very easy cuts because they're not core to the function of the deck. And then in some matchups, like if you're playing against a 3-color deck, you probably don't want Noxious Vapors because they're going to keep 2 lands and 3 cards out of a 6-card hand, discard 1. That's not worth playing. You can just take the Vapors out. So for decks like that, we can take the 4 Vapors out and bring in some removal or whatever. Feed the Swarm just deals with a lot of stuff. It's a very versatile removal spell, and we are trying to be fast enough that life loss is not going to punish us. Like, we're not trying to pull the game out to 7+ turns against a burn deck or something. We're really trying to finish this out on turn 3 or 4.
Got it.
We've got a second copy of Push Pull if we want to bring in a little bit extra removal that's not Feed the Swarm, or if we think that our game plan is going to be grindy enough that pulling cave trolls or street wraiths or whatever is actually going to be a relevant plan, we can do that. We've got the 4 Soul Guide Lanterns, so just other graveyard decks, especially if they're as focused as Dredge is, we have something to bring in. And that's a cantrip again, so we can take out some stuff that's not good. If you're playing in something like Dredge where you really don't want to make them discard cards, you can just do a straight swap of the Noxious Vapors for the Lanterns, and then you can bring in whatever else you want for the push-pull Discovery Dispersal.
Got it.
We've got 1 Unmake, which is a very clunky removal spell, but it's specifically in here for indestructible stuff. So basically, Merit Lage tokens.
Is there Merit Lage tokens in Value Vintage?
There are Merit Lage tokens in Value Vintage.
Huh.
Dark Depths. There's a couple different ways to do Dark Depths. You can do Thespian Stage, and there's also a Eldrazi Cultist type guy that removes all the counters from a permanent that I've seen people playing around with. And then if we are going to be against a control deck where we really expect them to have creature removal and graveyard hate, but not Rest in Peace or Leyline of the Void, or if we think we can answer them with Feed the Swarm, then I have these 3 Corpses of the Lost that I want to try out for this deck. So most of what the deck is doing, I do have experience playing it, but Corpses of the Lost is a new card that I was recommended, and it is just, it's grindy value. So it comes down for 3 mana, and you make a 2/2 that has +1/+0 in haste. And then at the beginning of your end step, if you descended this turn, and remember, we have Street Wraith, Trolls, Blood Pets, Buried Alive, Discovery, and we're discarding cards. So we're going to descend a lot. We can pay a life and bring it back to our hand and then replay it. And so the next turn we've got 2 3/2 Skeleton Pirates with haste. And so we can build up a board of like 6 or 9 power pretty quickly with this, especially if we are in a matchup where it's a good investment for Dark Ritual. We can get like a 3/2 on turn 1. And then turn 2, we can cycle a Street Wraith or a Troll and look for that 3rd land. And then on turn 3, we can play another Corpses of the Lost, and now we've got 6 power on board. And if we life death a troll or a street wraith, then we've got like 9 or 12 power, and we're starting to look like we have an actual army on the board by turn 4. So,
Okay. It's pretty clever.
like, this is really slow, it's really grindy. It's not something that we want to be doing against the burn decks or the aggro decks or the combo decks. But if the opponent is trying to do like Elspeth stuff or like big 5 or 6 mana planeswalkers as their win condition, this is a recursive source of threats, and they need 2 removal spells to fully stop it. So it's kind of like a really cheap 15-cent Fables of the Mirror Breaker,
Okay.
where you have the enchantment that's doing some stuff, and then you also have the random 2/2s that come with it.
Got it. Are there
And it's just
Planeswalker decks in Value Vintage?
there are control decks in Value Vintage that win with Planeswalkers.
Fascinating.
Basically, any deck that you can think of that was very good in Standard or Pioneer or Early Modern, there's probably a version of it in Value Vintage.
Shake my head. No, is it Storm?
I mean, there's Dimir Storm.
It's just not.
Just the red rituals are too expensive right now. They need reprints.
Yeah. Very true.
So that is this deck. If you had any more general questions, or if you want to run some test hands, we can do that.
Let's run some test hands and see how we do. Oh, tell me about the considering. Just while we're here.
Okay, yeah. Let's go into the considering section. So, Fairy Macabre is another creature that discards itself. So is Undead Gladiator. So if we're looking for more creatures that put themselves in the graveyard, which buffs up Songs of the Damned, and it counts as descent for the corpses of the lost or whatever. And it's also more counters from Archfiend of Ifnir.
Okay.
So right now, we don't have the budget for Fairy Macabres over Soul Guide Lantern, but if something in the deck gets a reprint and brings the price down, so specifically we're looking at like Dark Ritual, Archfiend, Buried Alive, Songs of the Damned are the money cards.
Yeah.
Then we can swap in some other stuff.
Archfiend's $2? Goodness.
Archfiends are $2. That's why there's only 2 of them in here. I think it is worth it to have 1 or 2.
Okay.
Because it's a very solid plan B, but they do eat up some budget.
Yeah.
And then everything in the sideboard is very affordable.
Yeah, I'm looking at that. The sideboard push pull is 6 cents. Duress is 3 cents. Unmake is a quarter. Corpse of the Lost is 15. Feed the Swarm is 15. Soul Guide's 12.
Yeah, we're looking at about $1.50 for the whole sideboard. $1.50 to $2.
It says $1.68 on here.
Yeah. But Dark Ritual really could use another reprint. Those are starting to get up over $2 now.
Yeah. What sort of set would we see a Dark Ritual reprint in?
So stuff like Commander Masters or Precons are where we usually see Dark Ritual. Jumpstart could do one, maybe. I think the 25th anniversary had Dark Ritual.
Yeah, it doesn't really count.
The remastered sets you could see Dark Ritual in.
True.
The Groundbreakers, is that what they're called? Gravestalker.
Gravestalker,
yeah.
that's what I was looking at.
Again, just more cycling creatures. Deathrite Shaman was like $1.50 when I put it in the considering. It's probably much too expensive now.
It says $10 or $9.
Yeah. Speculators kind of messed those up.
Vampiric Hexmage, you're right. Thank you, Leighton. Which one did you say? Sludge Giant or...
Sludge Titan is about $2.
Yeah.
Uh, those are very interesting as an alternative to Archfiend. Like they're in the same financial cost wheelhouse, and it's just a matter of, do you want a creature that is synergizing with what the deck does, or a creature that puts itself in the graveyard and is a little less powerful?
Yeah.
Extra copies of Archfiend in the considering. If the price goes down on those, I would like to fit a couple more.
Mm-hmm. What about
Deity of Scars. What were you saying?
what about Nightveil Spectre? Why that one?
So Nightveil Spectre is a creature that you can Dark Ritual out on turn 1 against the control decks. And then it lets you play a little bit more of a grindy game, just like Corpses of the Lost does. But
Okay.
instead of board presence, you're getting card advantage.
Got it.
So it depends on how you want to tune the deck. Like, do you want to be all in on like the first 3 turns of the game, or do you want to give up a little bit to try and be better on like turn 4 or 5?
Okay.
The Still Moon Cavaliers are just protection from white, and value vintage is really good.
Okay.
If you have pro white and pro black, then you're pretty much only dying to burn spells.
Huh.
Because the big removal spells in the format are like Swords to Plowshares, Pass to Exile, Power Word Kill, Cast Down, Ultimate Price, that kind of stuff. Eliminate. So you're kind of just looking at a creature that is not going to die to anything, and it blocks a lot of the good initiative creatures forever. It can steal the initiative really well.
Yeah, because you
But
can pump it up.
again, this is something that you're looking for a reprint on. Like if this gets reprinted in a commander deck and it goes down to 50 cents, I would absolutely find room for a couple.
The hard part is it's a eventide rare, which notoriously don't get reprinted.
Yep. They have not been good at it, yeah. Just like the Deity of Scars, where like this is a very interesting card. It is like a 5/5 that turns into a 6/6, that turns into a 7/7. It's difficult to kill except with Swords to Plowshares because it regenerates, and most of the modern removal that people run doesn't stop regeneration.
Yeah.
Every time they try and kill it, it gets bigger. They need 3 removal spells unless they catch you tapped out.
Mm-hmm.
And it has trample. So if we're looking at a deck like Mono Blue Fairies, where they have so many little guys that are flying that a single demigod is probably not going to get there on its own,
Mm-hmm.
a Deity of Scars can absolutely get there on its own.
Got it.
And then the Undead Gladiator is just another one of those cards where if you want to go a little bit longer, try and grind out some more advantage over a meta, then Undead Gladiator is an alternative to the Haunted Dead,
Okay.
where you can discard your own cards for value.
Got it.
But it's very slow. It's a very slow way to do things.
Mm-hmm. So Echoing Return. I understand why there's more push pulls in the deck.
Yeah.
Why is
So
there
just the last copy of Push Pull. So Echoing Return is a card that when I played the tournament with the deck, I had in the deck. And if you have Street Wraiths or Cave Trolls, it does some work. The Troll of Khazad Dooms. So you can get back, like if you're in a matchup where they're forcing you into the late game, then Echoing Return is going to be 3/6/5s or 2/3/4 Swamp Walks or something like that. So if you get to the point where you are on 5 or 6 swamps and you actually have to find something to do with them, Echoing Return is going to give you a lot of value.
Got it.
And if you have a hand with 2 Street Wraiths, you cycle 2 of them, get them back with Echoing Return, and you have cycled and gone through 4 cards on turn 1, looking for your Dark Rituals and your Buried Alives to cast on turn 2.
It's pretty good.
So currently, not in the deck. I think the deck doesn't need it, but there are ways to build the deck where you would want the Echoing Returns back in.
Got it.
And then, like, right now, way too expensive. We would probably need multiple reprints, but Cabal Ritual, obviously a card that the deck would be interested in.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of the deck. If you want to talk about like specific matchups that I've tested against, we can do a little bit of that.
Yeah, let me share my screen with you on Discord so you can see the hand testing.
Okay. Alright, this is a mulligan.
Alright, deal another hand.
This is a keep.
Alright, let's play test it.
So, yep. So what we're going to do on this, we're going to just turn 1 out of Blood Pet.
Okay. Play Swamp, tap, Blood Pet.
Yep.
Next turn, we drew a Swamp. Play the Swamp.
Yep. We're going to play the Swamp. We are going to cycle Archfiend of Ifnir.
Okay. Cycle in the yard. Draw a card. It is Haunted Dead.
We are going to sack the Blood Pet.
Sack the Blood Pet. Goodbye, Blood Pet. We have a black mana floating.
Dark Ritual.
Dark Ritual. 3 black mana floating.
We are going to Death the Archfiend.
Death. Which is return.
It is just reanimate.
Return target creature from your graveyard to the battlefield. You lose life equals mana value. So if you all Archfiend back to the field, we lose 5. We're at 15.
Yep. So then, depending on what our opponent has in play, we can either cycle the Cave Troll to find a swamp, or we can play out the Blood Pet. So let's just play out the Blood Pet, assuming the opponent did not play a 1-drop Llanowar Elves or whatever.
Okay.
And so then that's our turn.
Next turn, we drew a Life Death, we have Haunted Dead, and we have Troll of Khazad-dûn.
Alright, so cycle the Troll.
Cycle the Troll.
So we trigger the Archfiend, so we put a -1/-1 counter on all of our opponent's creatures.
Cool.
We're going to go find a swamp.
Swamp. And then shuffle the library. Play the swamp.
Yep. And we're going to Death the Troll.
And then we Death the Troll. View all. Troll Khazad-dûn out. We lose 6 life. We're at 9.
And then we attack for 6.
And just assume they take 5. Or assume they take 6.
I mean, we just gave their whole board -1/-1 counter, so I don't know how much blocking they're going to be doing.
True.
So this is turn 3, and we have attacked the opponent for 6, and we have 12 power in play, with 11 of it being evasive.
Mm-hmm.
So if our opponent is on High Tide, like we lose this game. If they're not on High Tide and we were on the play, then Supreme Verdict doesn't really get them out of this. Pyroclasm and Drown in Sorrow and cards of that type don't really get them out of this. A single Swords to Plowshares is not going to stop us. Like, they're going to need to combo Swords to Plowshares with Supreme Verdict or something.
Yeah.
If they balance us, that will probably clear our board. But we have 1 card in hand, so they're going to have to go to 1 card to balance or restore balance us.
Got it.
So this is kind of what the deck wants to do. If you want to go ahead and do another test hand,
We'll do next turn.
Walk through.
Cool. We drew a blood pet. We can just swing out and win.
We can swing out. If they're not dead, we can sack our blood pet and play the haunted dead out. But I think the game is probably at this point pretty much over. Like, if the opponent is on initiative and they don't have a way to remove one of our two big creatures, they could just get run over by this.
Yeah.
If they're on like goblins or something, then we are wiping their board with the Archfiend triggers.
Cool. Let's close that and check out another hand.
Yep.
There we
go. All right. This is a mulligan.
All right. Deal another hand. And no lands.
This is a mulligan. Yeah, we need one land at least. Going to 5. This. This is actually keepable.
You want to try this?
Yeah, this is fine.
All right. What do we want to put away?
All right, we're going to put away the Discovery Dispersal. And we're going to put away the Buried Alive.
Okay.
So turn 1, we're going to play out the swamp.
Play the swamp.
And we're going to cycle the Street Wraith.
So we lose 2. Street Wraith. Draw Buried Alive.
Okay. We're going to Swamp Cycle the Troll.
Swamp Cycle the Troll. View all.
And we would be Swamp Cycling at the end of the opponent's turn.
Yeah.
But we don't actually have an opponent, so I'm just walking us through it as quickly as possible.
Okay.
So then go to the next turn.
We drew Demigod.
Okay, that's interesting. Go ahead and play out the swamp, and then Death the Troll.
Okay. Death the Troll. We lose 6 life. We're at 12.
And then we need to find another mana source, hopefully. So we're going to pass the turn.
Okay. We got Discovery Dispersal.
Go ahead and cast Discovery. So we're going to Surveil 2 and then draw a card.
View top. 2. Swamp and Street Wraith.
Put the Street Wraith in the graveyard, and then put the swamp on top.
Okay. And then we'll draw the swamp.
And we'll draw the swamp. The Street Wraith will go in the graveyard.
We play the swamp?
Play the swamp. And attack with the troll.
Attack with the troll.
Right. So then we're going to go to next turn.
Swamp.
All right, I think we win here. Go ahead and play the swamp.
Swamp.
And Buried Alive.
2, 3. Buried Alive.
We're going to go find 3 demigods.
1, 2, 3.
Yep. And then don't just leave those in play because we're about to do the thing.
Okay, I want to put the Buried Alive in
so
the graveyard.
we're gonna tap our last swamp. We're gonna cast Songs of the Damned.
Okay.
Just gonna actually this is only gonna make 4 mana, isn't it?
1, 2, 3. There are 2 Straight Wraiths. It makes 5.
Oh, there. Okay, yep, that's what I thought. I forgot that we had 2 Street Wraiths. Yep. So we're gonna make 5 mana. We're gonna cast Demigod.
Okay.
We're gonna trigger Demigod.
Bring all the other demigods
We're
back.
gonna have all the demigods. We are going to attack for 26 evasion damage on turn 4. Yep.
That's win. All right.
So that was running pretty hot. Like we hit lands when we needed to. But that is what the deck is built to do. And like imagine if we had a dark ritual. Like that was a mull to 5.
Yeah.
Don't forget that was a mull to 5 that we killed on turn 4.
Mm-hmm.
Then we haven't really seen any noxious vapors hands. Go ahead and generate test hands, and then we'll keep with the first one that has a noxious vapors in it.
So like this one.
Yeah. So this is perfect.
Cool.
So this hand doesn't actually do anything after the noxious vapors, but it does have a turn 1 noxious vapors. So we're going to play out a swamp.
Swamp.
And we're going to Dark Ritual.
Dark Ritual has 3 black mana floating.
And we're going to cast Noxious Vapors.
Noxious Vapors.
And we're going to discard... We're going to pick Blood Pet as our black card and keep all of our lands. And we're going to discard the Cave Troll.
Cool. Goodbye, Cave Troll.
So now let's imagine the opponent is on High Tide. What does their hand look like?
It is practically
one or two islands in a preordain.
Yeah.
So if the opponent is on a affinity deck, all of their colorless cards get discarded.
Really?
You don't get to keep any. Yeah, you don't get to keep any colorless cards after Noxious Vapors except for lands.
Oh shit, that's pretty good.
So if their hand is Seed of the Synod, Vault of Whispers, Thoughtcast, and a bunch of Mirror Enforcers, they have lands and Thoughtcast.
Nice.
But on the other hand, if the opponent is on a 4-color deck and they're on like Bring to Light Snow Swans, and they get to keep Bring to Light and Swans and another card and 3 lands, then Noxious Vapors is bad. So you kind of want to know what your opponent is doing before you fully commit to an opening hand that just has turn 1 Noxious Vapors.
Yeah. So let's go from here and see how we win.
So yeah, let's see how long it takes us to draw out of this.
All right, next turn. We got life and death. All right, we're gonna win.
Yeah, exactly. Turn 2, bring back a troll.
Bring back the troll. Troll cause a dune.
So now the opponent is probably on 1 to 2 spells, 1 to 2 lands, and we have a 6/5 Super Menace.
Yeah.
And then let's just see what the next card is too, because we're gonna get a couple. So play out the Discovery.
Play out the land, then the Discovery. Or do you want to do Discovery first?
You can do whatever. I would play the land because we're not going to find a better land. It's just all swamps.
Cool.
And they might have Daze or Mana Tithe or something.
All right. So we surveil 2 and then draw 1.
Yep.
View top 2. Swamp and Buried Alive.
Put both of those in the graveyard.
Okay. Move to graveyard. Move to graveyard. Close that. And we draw a push-pull.
Yep, just a regular removal spell. Go ahead and play out the Blood Pet.
Play the Blood Pet.
Just a little guy.
And swing with the
troll.
troll.
And then we're gonna attack with the troll, and we're gonna go to the next turn.
Buried Alive again.
Go ahead and cast the Buried Alive. Like, unless we think that the opponent has main deck graveyard stuff, we're gonna just Buried Alive when we have it. And we're gonna put 3 demigods in. So this is something interesting to think about. If you put 3 demigods in the graveyard, you're probably not drawing another one.
Yeah.
But, again, it's totally fine.
And put all those in the graveyard.
Yep.
Then swing with the troll and swing with a pet. That's
Yep.
almost lethal.
That's 7 more damage. We're getting close.
Next turn. Buried Alive.
That's actually interesting. I think we hold on to that one.
Okay.
And we just swing in.
And that kills him.
Does that kill him?
Pretty sure, because
6 plus 7 plus 7. Yeah, that does kill him. So, like, if the opponent has any blocker, like, they can pop off the blood pet. So let's assume that they're not actually completely dead here and do another draw step.
Alright, next turn. Swamp.
Yep. And then, like, we get in with the troll. So this was a slower game, but again, we put the opponent on 1 or 2 lands, 1 or 2 spells, probably.
Yeah.
It's kind of like if your opponent is playing one of the balance decks and they just get to turn 1 balance you down to 2 or 3 cards in hand.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what the deck is doing. It's operating on 2 different axes, and it's kind of got hand pressure and it's got board pressure, and it can max those out very quickly. Potentially turn 1.
It's very interesting, for sure. Let's see what the next turn would look like. It would have been a Street Wraith.
Yeah, so go ahead and draw from the Street Wraith. We're basically at this point, if they can deal with the troll somehow, we're looking for a way to cast the pull half of push pull, which will bring back 2 demigods or a troll and a demigod, and just bash them for 10 plus damage.
Cool, so we drew a troll.
Yeah, so we would swamp cycle that, which doesn't get us there immediately, but like next turn if they've supreme verdicted us, because like let's say the opponent is on a blue-white control deck and they keep 2 lands and a Swords to Plowshares and a Supreme Verdict, that would have probably stopped us. So now we're just looking at, if they stop this Cave Troll, how do we actually win the game? And the answer is we're going to bury it alive and we're going to push pull stuff out.
Yeah, so we got the land, we played the land, next turn we'll push pull and win.
Yeah. Like, normally in value vintage, you cannot afford to be this slow. But if you have basically resolved 2 Hymn to Turoks on your opponent, well, not random discard, so it's not fully 2 Hymn to Turoks, but half of their opening hand is gone.
Yeah.
If they keep a 1-lander and they're a monocolor deck, they're on 2 cards in their opening hand. Their Soul Rings go away. Their Soul Guide Lanterns that they brought in to deal with your buried alive stuff are going to go away. Farmod's Crypt's gone. Alright, so that is this deck. Did you want to look at a second deck?
Yeah, let's look at a second one. Did you post this in the Value Vintage Discord already?
I did not. You did.
I'm going to. I put that we're live.
Oh yeah, go ahead. Post it. It is a combo deck is where I would post it. And then I will pick out a second deck for us to go through. Let me make sure that this is my newest deck that I've brewed up. Yeah, definitely. We're at only $27 here.
But yeah, I'll try to make it to Value Vintage on Friday. And then is it this Saturday or next Saturday? That's the one in Mavericks.
The 17th is Mavericks.
Okay.
And if you want to do that one, I would not be able to give you a ride home.
Okay.
Because I'm actually spending the weekend with a friend. She's going to pick me up from Mavericks.
Got it. Well, you could maybe talk to Julian and see what he's up to.
Yeah, if you guys can give me a ride to Mavericks, that would actually be perfect.
Yeah. So how are you, Leighton? I'm glad you pulled the shift. I'm sorry you pulled the shift. That must have been exhausting. And thanks for the Vampiric Hexmage reminder. I think Vampiric Hexmage is like $2.
All right, I posted the decks in the content channel on the Value Vintage Discord.
Cool.
So then go ahead and go over to the other deck, which is the Scientist.
I've seen this one. This is your Tesserator list. Kinda.
This started its existence as a Tesserator list, and it has gotten much weirder since then.
Okay.
This is an Esper sort of balance, but not really because it just runs the one. Sort of control, sort of artifact synergy deck.
Interesting. Now, this one didn't do very well at the Card Swarm thing we played recently.
So I brought this deck to a tournament and I went 1-2. But the reason that I went 1-2 was because I was mono blue and I was expecting to play into a combo and control meta. And I just got run over by Green White Initiative and Boros Aggro.
Yeah.
Like just absolutely obliterated by aggro decks. So I am now splashing. So because I have the border posts, the deck has 4 white sources and 4 black sources just automatically.
Yeah.
And I was just using them for blue, but the mana base for the deck was technically Esper.
Okay.
And then I had the Lorien revealeds in there, so I went ahead and added 1 blue-white duel and 1 blue-black duel that I can island cycle for. So that gives me 9 black sources and 9 white sources. And then 23 blue sources.
Yeah.
So the core of this deck, what we're actually building around, is Braided Net and Chrome Hose Seed Shark.
Okay.
The Braided Net is our card advantage engine, and the Chrome Hose Seed Shark is our win condition.
Yeah.
And we're trying to play spells that are going to maximize how effective these cards are.
Yeah.
So we've got free spells for the shark. We've got some commandeers and some foils. So if you use a commandeer to protect a seed shark from something like a Swords to Plowshares, you incubate a 7/7.
Yeah, that's kind of nutty.
So you play out a turn 2 or 3. So like if you've got a Soul Ring, but let's say you've got no Soul Ring, turn 3 Chroma Seed Shark, and they just go to Swords to Plowshares it, or Chainer's Edict you, or whatever, Momentum Breaker. But you just commandeer it, and you're like, well, now that's my Momentum Breaker. So if you have a creature, you have to sacrifice it. If you don't, you have to discard an artifact. And I'm going to make a 7/7. So now you're dealing with a 2/4 flyer and a 7/7, and you've spent your whole turn to remove your own creature, and now I get to untap and hold up more counter magic. It's kind of the plan that we're trying to be on.
Yeah.
And that works really well against like the Luris control decks or other slower decks. It doesn't work so well when you're on the draw and your opponent went turn 1 1 drop, turn 2 2 drop, turn 3 3 drop, and you can't commandeer any of them, and so they're beating you in for like 7 or 8 damage a turn.
Yeah.
Which is what I was running into at that event. So now we've got some actual removal. So we've got some Vindicates, we've got some Infernal Grasps, so we can actually kill some stuff.
Yeah.
And we've also got a balance. So we are a border post deck. We're not doing the Cascade Restore balance stuff, but we are a border post deck, so we can very reasonably have 2 border posts and a land in hand and balance the opponents down to no lands and then just play our land for the turn.
Yeah. That's kind of disgusting.
We've got Tezzeret as backup win condition and backup draw engine. It's not as good as a win condition as the Seed Shark. It's not as good of a draw engine as the Braided Kipu is, but he does draw some cards. He does make some 4/4s.
Yeah.
Most of the cards in the deck pitch to the blue Commandeer.
Mm.
So I would like to swap the Infernal Grasp for a blue-black removal spell. The problem is the ones that exist are not particularly good. Like Drown in the Lock, I have had real issues with getting to work when I need it to work. Agony Warp is for very small stuff. And then Tyrant Scorn is, again, mostly for small stuff. So I might run a blue-white removal spell, but again, those are not particularly good either. If we want to talk about the braided net, so if we go up to the main deck again.
Yeah.
So braided net is pretty good if your opponent is going all in on one big creature. So like, again, the Merit Lage decks or the Tinker decks that are going for Triplicate Titan. You're going to lock it down for 3 turns, and then you get to flip your net over and draw some cards.
Nice.
We've got Filigree Silex's main deck. So if the opponent is on aggro deck with a lot of 1 and 2 mana creatures, we can kind of clean some of them up.
Yeah.
And it's more artifacts for Tezzeret to discard and more non-creature spells for Seed Shark. I had Shark Typhoons in this deck, and I think that you don't need them. But they were okay. We've got some cantrips in the deck. We've got the Ops in here. We've got some counter magic with the foils and the loose focus that can hit pretty much anything. We've got the Lorien Revealeds, which are both mana and card draw, and they're a 5-drop for the Seed Shark.
Yeah.
So the deck is kind of doing control stuff, but it's doing it from a different angle than the format usually sees. Because you've got a lot of free spells. So one thing that Value Vintage control decks struggle with is interacting when they're tapped out. So you want to get the game to a place where you can stabilize, and you do that by tapping out for something. And that gives your opponent a window. Like if you have to tap out for a Supreme Verdict, your opponent has a window to resolve like 2 or 3 burn spells or a big haste creature. And so you kind of don't want them to do that. Whereas if you tap out for a Tezzeret or a Lorien Revealed in this deck, you might still be holding up counter magic. Your opponent has to respect that.
Interesting.
And then Tezzeret is a little bit awkward in this deck in ways that you don't usually see with Tezzeret decks, because your mana base is artifacts to a good degree. Which means a lot of the time when Tezzeret comes down in the early to mid game, you're not going to be able to get a discount on an artifact ability immediately because you've already tapped a Border Post or a Soul Ring for mana.
Yeah.
But you do get to get the discount on the opponent's turn. So, like, you cast the Tezzeret on turn 2 with a Soul Ring, and then if you have an artifact somehow, you can just do it on the opponent's turn. If you have a Seed Shark and you cast Tezzeret off a Border Post, you don't get to immediately flip the egg into a Phyrexian, but you can do it on your opponent's end step or on their Declare Attacker step, and then you have a 4/4.
So wait, is the activated ability the pay 1 and return a basic?
No, the activated ability is tapping it for mana.
Oh, got it.
So you don't actually have a way to reduce the cost of your Border Post in this deck. I've seen some people playing around with that, but because you're still limited to 1 land drop per turn, I didn't really see a lot of value in making Border Post cost 0.
Got it.
And I'm not actually sure if making the spell cost 1 less works with the border post ability. It's just not something I've really been interested in learning because it's not something I want the deck to do.
Yeah.
Vindicates are in the deck. Just whatever the opponent is doing, you can Vindicate it. If they're a control deck on Planeswalkers, you can Vindicate a Planeswalker. If they're making a Golos, you can Vindicate Golos. If they're on Dark Depths, you can Vindicate the land before they make a Merit Lage.
Yeah.
And if you balance them off of lands and they're starting to recover, you can Vindicate a land.
Yeah.
So if we want to go to the sideboard, we can talk about some of the choices for that.
You have 2 Spectral Sailors, 2 Haunt the Network, 4 Ravenous Traps, 2 Commandeers, 3 Chills, which I think is hilarious, and 2 Teferi's Moat.
Yep. So Spectral Sailor, Ravenous Trap, and the Commandeers are stuff that I have experience with in the deck playing it. And then Chill I had in my sideboard, but I didn't draw it in the matchup where it was relevant.
Yeah.
Haunt the Network and Teferi's Moat are new.
Okay.
So let's go over the stuff that I've actually used, and then we'll talk about what I'm hoping to do with the new cards. So Chill is just in there for the burn decks. Like, if people want to burn, if people want to do red cascade stuff, you can bring in Chill, and it makes their deck not work very well.
Got it.
Spectral Sailor is for the initiative decks primarily, but it's also perfectly fine against the decks that are trying to win with, like, Shrieking Affliction, Bandit's Talent, stuff like that.
Okay.
They often don't have a ton of removal, so if you get a Spectral Sailor out, you can probably draw 2 or 3 cards off of it, which really slows down their win condition on you, and might let you find a Braided Net or a Tezzeret and, like, kind of just grind out of it.
Got it.
Ravenous Trap, if the opponent is a Dredge deck or a self-discard deck or whatever they're doing, you can Ravenous Trap, clean up their graveyard, and if you have Seed Sharks, you also get to incubate a 4/4.
That's pretty good.
And then the extra Commandeers are for the decks where most of the spells that you want to counter are going to be non-creatures.
Yeah.
So if they're a control deck and you want to Commandeer their Planeswalkers or Commandeer their Rhinos, like Crash of Footfalls, you can Commandeer it on turn 0, and usually they don't really get any way to respond to that, so you're just going to have their Rhinos.
That's really annoying.
So let's talk about Haunt the Network and Teferi's Moat.
Okay.
So Haunt the Network, go ahead and pop it up on screen, because this is probably one people are not going to be familiar with.
Okay.
So you're going to choose your opponent, because in Value Vintage it's a one-on-one format.
Yeah.
And you're going to make 2 Thopters, which are good chump blockers, but that's not really what we're doing. Then, the chosen player loses X life and you gain X life, where X is the number of artifacts you control. In this deck, if we get into a grindy game, which the deck is kind of engineered to make happen against the other mid-range decks, this is a Grey Merchant of Asphodel type effect. This is drain 8 or 9 life.
Yeah, I can see that.
So we're going to make 2 blockers, we're going to gain 9 life, and they're going to lose half of their life total. So suddenly, if we have a 4/4 egg from our incubators, that 4/4 looks pretty scary when you're at 8 or 12 life, and there's 2 1/1s also.
Yeah.
If we have Seed Sharks and we cast this, we're going to incubate before it goes off. So, like, if we somehow have no border posts, and we have 2 Seed Sharks, and we cast a Haunt the Network, it's still going to be drain 4 life.
Yeah.
So I'm interested in trying this against... first off, we're going to try it against the burn decks.
Yeah.
So if we can use Chill to stall the game out a couple extra turns, and then we get to drain them for like 6 or 7, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
I think that's pretty good. It is 5 mana, so again, this is very situational. We don't want these main deck. They're way too much mana to have in the deck for matchups where they're not what we want to be doing.
Yeah.
But I think that potentially we can use these to stabilize against some of the more aggressive decks.
That's really clever.
Right, and then if we want to look at the Teferi's moats. So this is a card that I'm interested in trying out. They are a little tough on the budget because they're about $1 a piece.
Yeah.
But this deck has like $3 of extra budget right now that I'm trying to spend.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm interested in trying these out. There are a lot of mono red and mono black creature decks that show up at the store where we play.
Mm-hmm.
And mono red is going to have to use a red elemental blast to destroy this. Mono black is going to have to pretty much use a feed the swarm.
Yeah.
Until then, they just cannot attack us. Mono red aggro does not have a lot of flying creatures. Mono black aggro usually does. They have like some deep cavern bats or some darkstar augurs. So this isn't just straight up your opponents can't attack you. And one thing I've thought of instead is working Rest in Peace and Energy Field into the deck.
Uh-huh.
So that the deck may change to include those, either as a sideboard or a main deck thing. But for right now, the Teferi's moats are something that I'm interested in trying out.
Got it. That's pretty clever.
Somebody at our store has one with Mississippi River Cascade, and if you Teferi's moat them on green, they don't really have a lot of ways to attack.
Huh.
They have a couple of flying blue creatures.
Yeah. Oh, that's really
So that is basically the deck. So if you wanted to run some test hands with this one,
yeah,
we can work through it.
Alright. This is no lands.
Yep. If you have no lands, then we gotta ship it.
Do we want to try this one?
No.
Go
this one. Yeah, put the lose focus back.
Cool. We'll play test it. Put the lose focus on the bottom of the library. Put it bottom of the library. Put it bottom of the library. So do we play a land and play the post?
This is not the hand that I was looking at. I think we have lag between your screen and mine.
Oh, shit.
I thought we kept the balance hand.
No, I thought we would keep the balance hand, but we didn't.
Yeah. Get a loose focus off the bottom of the library and put an island on the bottom of the library.
Okay. Oopsie, there we go.
And then we're just gonna play out a turn 1 border post.
Okay. Island, tap it, post, tap it, land back to hand. Next turn?
Yep.
Soul Ring. Alright.
Yep. Okay, so play an island.
Island.
Play a Soul Ring.
Soul Ring. And then do we...
And we're gonna just hold up, lose focus.
Okay. Do we want to think they're going to play something and cast and lose focus, or do we want to hold on to it?
Yes, if we mulligan to 5 and it's their turn 2, they're gonna cast something.
Alright, cool. We're going to cast and lose focus.
Yep.
Go to our turn. Filigree Silex.
Cast the Tezzeret before you play the land.
Okay. Tezzeret.
And then we're gonna plus Tezzeret to draw cards.
Add a counter. That's wrong button. Remove a counter. Add a loyalty counter, 5. And his thing says draw 2 cards and pitch 2 unless you destroy an artifact.
Yep.
Draw an opt. Draw a loose focus.
Pitch the Silex.
Pitch in the Silex.
And play out the island.
Play out the island.
So we are going to pass the turn, and at the end of the opponent's turn, we will opt.
Okay, opt. Scry 1, and then draw a card. View top 1 is Commandeer.
Bottom Commandeer.
Move to bottom library. And we draw Shark.
Okay. Before we cast Shark, and before we tap any artifacts, go ahead and plus Tezzeret.
Well, next turn. Now we have the Silex.
Yeah, go ahead and untap.
Add loyalty counter, draw 2. We get border post and opt.
All right. Pitch the Silex.
Pitch the Silex.
And tap Soul Ring and an island and cast the Shark.
Cast the Shark.
And then tap an island.
Island.
And pick up an island and cast Border Post.
Border post. Incubate 3.
And incubate a 3.
And we did not play a land this turn.
We did not. Go ahead and play it.
Play a land.
And then we're going to pass. And let's assume that we have to play Lose Focus on this one.
Okay. So we'll pay 2.
So we're gonna pay 2. We're gonna cast Lose Focus. We're gonna incubate a 3.
Do you want to do Tezzeret's ability on the opponent's turn and do the thing too?
Yeah. So on the opponent's turn, we're going to turn our 3/3 into a Phyrexian.
Cool. And then it goes to our turn.
Yep. So untap. Yep. All right. So here is where goldfishing is a little bit weird.
Okay.
Because we have the opportunity to ultimate Tezzeret.
True.
Would that be happening in a real game? Maybe not. We did have a pretty fast hand. Like, we got this Tezzeret out turn 2, I think.
Yeah.
So, let's go ahead and ultimate Tezzeret. Actually, before we ultimate him, go ahead and turn the other...
Yeah.
Turn the other egg into a Phyrexian for free.
And then... How do we get this emblem? Oh, it's over here. Emblem's right there, and then we put Tezzeret in the bin.
So now, go ahead and attack with the 2 tokens and draw 2 cards.
We draw Shark and Tezzeret.
Okay.
Cast a Shark.
No. Tap Soul Ring and draw a card.
Tap Soul Ring, draw a card.
And main phase 2. So go to main phase 2.
Yeah, we're on main phase 2.
Tap Soul Ring, draw the card.
I did, it's an island.
Yep. Tap Border Post for blue, draw a card.
Blue, draw a card. So we have 2 colors and a blue floating.
Yep. And then tap the other Border Post for blue, draw a card.
With 2 blue and a colorless floating. We drew an island.
Play out an island.
Play on an island.
And then with the floating mana, cast Tezzeret.
Tezzeret cast it.
So +2 or +1 the Tezzeret to draw 2 and discard 1.
We drew a border post and sheet shark.
Cast.
But we have to discard.
Hold on, we're not passing the turn yet. Discard both of the ops.
Both of the ops gone.
All right, so.
Oh, we incubate 5. We incubate 4.
Yeah, we incubate 4 from the Tezzeret. And then we're going to play out another border post. So we're going to tap an island and pick it up.
Put that in the corner. Move that there. Move that over there. Then tap that. Border post. Bounce that back to hand. We get as it's tapped, we get another 3/3 thing.
Yep. And then at this point, if we haven't lost yet, then we're very much winning, because on our next turn we are going to draw 12 cards.
Yeah.
So we did interact with the opponent this game. We countered 2 spells, presumably. That's a little bit light for how long the game has gone, but we did have blockers. So if the opponent was trying to attack us with small creatures, we were going to slow that down quite a bit. So our draw was pretty bad against a combo deck, but against another creature deck, I think we were okay.
So let's play this out a little bit. Go to the opponent's turn.
I mean, we're drawing 12 cards.
Turn over that. And then go to our next turn. We drew a foil.
Yeah. So go ahead and turn the other incubator into a creature for free. Play an island.
Play an island. Do you want to kill their presumed creature?
First, tap Soul Ring and a Field Mist border post. Draw 2.
Braided Net.
Nope, that's a Miss Vein.
Which one?
Draw 2 cards.
I did.
Cast a Seed Shark.
Cast a Seed Shark.
Go to combat.
Cool. And then we'll swing at the shark and we'll draw 4.
Yep.
1, 2, 3, 4.
All right.
They'll be taking 10. No.
They'll be taking 12. No, they'll be taking 3.
14.
A lot, yeah. And they already took 5 last turn, so if they've taken anything from anything, they're dead already.
Yeah.
We've got a free counter spell up. We've got a removal spell up. We're going to play a Braided Net, which is going to tap down their best thing and draw us another card.
Okay, so let's do that.
So,
second main.
Drew, the game is over. We are done. There's no need to keep playing this.
Okay.
If we have 16 power in play and free counter magic and are discarding the hand size, the game is over.
Okay.
Alright, so let's do one more test hand, and then we can finish up the video.
Works for me. So, can you see this test hand?
No, let me look in Discord and see if that's any better.
There's a glove between.
I see two islands and a Perry Stream and a balance and two ops and a Lorien.
Yes, that's what it is.
This hand does absolutely nothing. So the only time that I would keep this hand is if I knew we were playing against a creature deck.
Okay.
Like, this hand is pretty good against, like, the people who want to curve out on creatures, because we're just going to go island, opt, Prairie Stream, opt, island, balance you.
Yeah.
But otherwise, I think this is a mulligan.
Okay.
This is totally fine.
You think so?
Yeah, this is what the deck wants to do. This is what a good hand looks like.
Okay. We'll play test it. What card do you want to put away?
Go ahead and... So, is this game 2, or is this a blind game 1?
This is blind game 1, like we've been doing.
Alright, blind game 1, I am going to put Commandeer on the bottom.
Okay. Move to bottom library.
Alright, so then we're going to play Island.
Island?
We're going to tap Island.
Tap Island.
We're going to play the Border Post.
Border Post. Pound Island back to hand.
Yep. And then we're going to pass.
Cool.
So, we have counter magic up, but we really don't want to use it.
Yeah.
Because we're going to 3-for-1 ourselves.
Okay, we drew another counter spell. Another foil.
We're going to play the Island and play the Filigree Silex.
Play the Silex.
And we're going to immediately put a counter on it. Like, we were assuming we're doing this on the opponent's end step, but we're just going to put a counter on it and do our next turn.
Okay, next turn. We drew an opt.
Alright, go ahead and Island cycle, tapping the Border Post.
Tapping the Border Post instead.
And we're going to find our blue-white duel.
Okay. View all. What's the blue-white one called?
Prairie Stream.
Prairie Stream. And we're going to play it tapped?
We're going to play it tapped. And at this point, I think we're probably losing the game. Because we didn't hit an untapped mana for the turn 3 shark. We could have island cycled on turn 2, but if we are winning the game, it's because the opponent has 2 1-drops that we get to Filigree Silex. But we can go ahead and play through it.
Let's play through it until we're absolutely sure we're screwed.
Yeah.
So, go.
I mean, this is turn 3 and we haven't done anything. So in value vintage, that means you're screwed.
Okay.
So let's assume the opponent casts a spell that we need to counter on their turn. So we're going to cast Opt and dig for an island.
Okay, cast Opt. And view top X. 1. It's Border Post. Put Border Post on the bottom.
Put that on the bottom.
Move to bottom library. Draw a card. It's a lose focus.
Alright, so we don't get to counter, so the opponent has done something that we really don't like at this point. Put the Opt in the graveyard. And then we're going to go to our turn. And so now we're assuming that the opponent has some kind of very scary permanent in play.
Do you want to tap the Silex and add it to 2, or leave it at 1?
Let's assume that we have already used the Silex.
Okay.
So it is going to be gone. Either this turn or last turn we were popping the Silex.
Okay. Next turn. Drew an island.
Alright. play the Seed Shark, and pass.
We don't want to play the... Oh, yeah, because of the counterspell.
We have foils. We have to hold up foils now.
Yeah.
We're going to pass to the opponent's turn, and I'm going to assume that the opponent is going to cast a spell that matters, because this is value advantage.
Yeah.
Starting on, like, turn 2, all the spells matter. So we're going to discard Island and a foil to cast a foil.
Island and foil.
So we are countering our opponent's spell, and we're going to make a 4/4 incubate.
So counters to the 4. Cool.
So now we have a 2/4 and a 4/4 and 3 mana sources. So we're not looking great for it being the 4th turn of the game.
Yeah.
I will say we have countered a spell. We have a 4/4 potentially. We might not be literally dead at this point, so let's see what our next draw is.
Silex.
We're going to hold on to that. We're going to swing with the shark and pass the turn.
Swing with the shark. Pass the turn. Goes the
So
opponent's
then we're
turn.
going to, like, if the opponent casts a spell that we have to counter, then we can lose focus and replicate it. If they don't, then we can flip the egg. So I'm going to say the opponent is probably going to cast something, but if it's not game ending, we're just going to let it happen because we have to get this egg turned over.
Okay, so let's flip the egg. Do we tap the border post or what order do we tap the things?
We tap the border post and the basic island would be what we would tap for this.
Cool.
Because we want to bluff Swords to Plowshares even though we don't even run it.
Yeah. So we flip the egg and go to our next turn. Sunken Hollow.
I guess we would play that out. Like, that gives us a land of each color. Like, at this point, we have no velocity. Our deck is not doing anything.
Yeah.
Like, if our opponent has a deck that is functional, we're dead.
Okay.
And this is kind of what happened several times in the tournament, is I would get out like a turn 3 or 4 Seed Shark, and then I wouldn't have anything else going on. So, like, either I counter something and make 1 egg, or they swords my Seed Shark and I don't have a counter up, and I just kind of dirtle and pass and die.
Yeah.
So this is what the deck's weakness is that we don't have a ton of velocity when we're not firing on all cylinders.
Got it.
And more cantrips could help with this, but at the same time, we only have so much room.
Mm-hmm. Let's check a few more hands because we have a little bit more time, and then we won't play test them. We'll just check hands.
Yeah.
All right. Island, Sunken Hollow, Branded Net, Opt, Chrome Host, Foil, Field Mist.
Yeah, this is great.
Cool.
Like, this lets you hold up foil starting on turn 1. You get to run out a border post with your first land drop, so if you top deck balance, you can just balance them off of lands. You have the shark, you have the braided net if you need to slow them down a little bit. This is a perfect 7-card hand for a blind game.
Perfect. Let's do another hand and see what we're looking at. Island, Prairie Stream, Silex, Branded Net, Shark, Tezzeret, Border Post.
All right, this hand is pretty bad. Like, we're doing the turn 1 border post. Sorry, but it doesn't let us do balance because it's the wrong border post. We don't have the balance. We don't have a cantrip to look for it. We don't have any removal or counter spells, so we're not really interacting with the opponent. We don't have Soul Ring, so our Seed Shark is going to be on turn 3, and we don't have any free counter spells to protect the Seed Shark when we do cast it.
Got it. So, let's do another hand. No lands.
No land, mulligan.
Island, Infernal Grass, Tezzeret, Commandeer, Vindicate, Border Post, Vindicate.
This is close. So if this were a 7, I would ship it. If it were a 6, I would keep it and put a Vindicate on the bottom.
Okay. Got it. Steal another hand. No lands.
No land mulligan. That is the problem with only having 13 basic lands. This hand's fine. Like, if you know the opponent is playing controller combo, then this is a bad hand. But going into a blind matchup, this has turn 1 border post, turn 2 removal, turn 3 you have the option of either cantripping or braided net.
Yeah.
Like, I think the deck might want some more interaction.
Uh-huh. It definitely seems solid, but it seems a little bit, like, goofy.
It is a solid core. It needs refining.
Yeah.
The things that the deck are doing can win you the game, but it's not quite consistent enough at doing them.
Mm-hmm. Alright. Not too bad. Well, thank you everyone for watching. If you're on Twitch, make sure to follow. Which I appreciate Lighton for joining us. If you're still here, thank you. If you're not here, I'm sorry. If you're on YouTube, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Fairly small channel, but you know we're doing what we can. Toad and I will try to have these videos out each Tuesday. Hopefully, just gotta maintain like posting them and all that. And I'll try to get more Brawl stuff coming up soon. Just haven't been able to do it because I don't have enough Wild to do what I want to do. And then the art streams I have set up for the next few weeks. But I'll get back to streaming art streams sooner than later. Just need to get some schedule stuff figured out and get more guests interested. And yeah, thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate it. Make sure to check out the Value Vintage, like all the Value Vintage guys stuff. It's a really fun format that Toad and I have really been enjoying. It's a pretty interesting format. It has some weird quirks, but it's neat.
You can do whatever you want to do, sort of.
Yeah. Rest in peace, Grischelbrand. Can't do Grischelbrand.
Not yet. We're waiting on reprints.
Very true. So I don't think Through the Breach and Goryo's Vengeance are going to be reprinted anytime soon.
I mean,
well, Through the Breach just did.
We're probably going to get more Modern Horizon stuff. We're going to get more Commander precons.
Just Goryo's
There's always the chance.
It's just Goryo's Vengeance seems like one of those cards where it's like it's really hard to reprint.
Yeah.
The last reprint I got, I'm pretty sure was Ultimate Masters, which was like 2018.
But I mean, you have cards like Life, Death, and Victimize that you don't get to play with in Modern. I guess Victimize you might now, they reprinted it. But you don't have to use Goryo's Vengeance.
Yeah.
Alright, I have been Toad Brews.
And
I will likely continue to be Toad Brews.
Well, that's good. I was concerned that you wouldn't be. But anyway, thank you very much, everyone, and we will see you later. Bye!
Thanks for watching. Bye.